Hello, everyone. My name is Charles Muturi Kenothia, a substance abuse counselor, introducing my channel Drugs Recovery and Relapse. This is a third in a series. Last time we talked about the case of a prison officer and we heard about his dramatic encounter with alcoholism. Today, we are going to show that addiction is no respecter of age and it can hit at any age. Our subject for today is a young man we are going to call Tom, age 17. Tom was in Form 3 when I first met him, and his problem was that he had been caught doing drugs in school. How did this turn out to be? He started drugs in a boarding school where he had been sent by his parents thinking that we were doing him a favor. Recently, we have been hearing the government talking about the boarding school as saying that they ought to be banned, at least as far as primary school education is concerned. Primary school kids in boarding school tend to pick up some very bad habits, and these are some of the habits that Tom picked. When he went into high school, he continued and soon he was a member of a gang. During the COVID closure in 2020, the students were at home and the use of drugs increased. It was after their return to school that a spate of arson attacks took place in schools. Before they could burn the school where Tom was schooling, the headmaster discovered the plot and he sent all the students home. Coming back 2 weeks later, they found the school crawling with policemen and medical personnel. The medical personnel were from a local psychiatric hospital, and it was their job to do a drug test on all the students in the school because the prevailing theory in the school was that those who were the gang leaders were those who were abusing drugs. Parents tried to complain, but the headmaster and the board were adamant, and the whole school was tested. 26 students were found to be positive for various drugs, some legal, many illegal, Tom being one of them. And this was the ultimatum that the headmaster gave. The students had to either go for a rehab and come back with a letter showing that they had attended for a month or be expelled from the school. Further to that, the headmaster also said he was going to involve the police who are going to find out where the students were getting these drugs. The parents had to agree to what the headmaster demanded. So Tom found himself in a rehab where he stayed for 30 days. Before we go on forward, we have to look at this issue of testing of students in school for drugs. There are very many people who are likely to support this for various reasons. If you can do this impromptu test, it will make the students afraid. They will know that at any one time testing can be done. This could be a way of keeping them from drugs. It will also ensure the teachers to realize who are the students who are abusing drugs, and so interventions can be done at an early stage before these students become completely lost. It will also be possible to interrogate the students and find out where they are getting the drugs. That way, you can be able to get rid of the traffickers. There are some of the advantages that we can speak about. So these are the arguments that we can use for this testing in schools. Others on the other side will say that this is wrong and they'll give their own reasons. They'll say this will be joking around with the privacy of the kids, this infringement of the children's privacy and their human rights. They also say that these tests are not 100% in their accuracy. Samples can be switched and you can also get false positives. For instance, if a student has been taking opioid-based medication, legal medication, it can show up in the urine sample as positive for opium. So there are a lot of gray areas which we can not discuss right here as to the legality of this process. What I know is that in the year 2002, the US Supreme Court allowed schools to do mandatory drug testing at random in middle and upper high schools. This was when the issue of drugs became almost intractable. Here in Kenya, the law on this is silent, but there have been some schools, for example, Miranda School once did this, but this was met with a lot of opposition from a section of parents who thought this was not right. But whether this is right or wrong, what are the advantages of doing this is that the students will start to fear. That's a very big advantage. Also, it will be possible for the school's administration to know who amongst the kids are doing drugs. As we continue with the arguments, we should know that when students get caught, there could be repercussions. These repercussions could maybe in their record coming up later on in life. So I don't know whether this record should be kept. This is still a gray area. For our case of Tom, it turned out to be very, very positive. His stay at the rehab was an eye opener. There he was with people who were old enough to be his father and his grandfather. And he saw firsthand the kind of damage that drugs can do. And the candid conversation with his elders showed him that there is no way he could go back to drugs. As we speak right now, he has done his high school and is a model student in the university because he passed with flying colors. For this particular case, we end up with a success story. Our subject, although he had been forced into treatment against his will, or the whole expedition of going to the rehab turned out to be to his advantage. So in this case, you can say drug testing helps. You can also say coercion into treatment helped in this case. Now, as parents, what do we have to look out for? When your teenager start doing the following things, you should start getting worried. There is a genre of music. I know lovers of reggae are going to fight me. There's a genre of music called reggae. When you see your son is always interested in reggae, playing reggae music all the time, there are those colors called the Rasta colors. They are yellow, green, red, and black. You see him always buying clothes, with those colors. Start taking care. You see him also lighting joysticks and making excessive use of perfumes. These could be masking something. These are some of the early warning systems you should look out for. Look at the sleep patterns. Is this kid sleeping too much? Is his sleeping patterns disrupted? So many parents will come up and tell the teachers that we don't know exactly what happened. He was a good boy, but these are some of the early warning systems. Of late, there's been the use of prescription drugs. Unlike cannabis, which has a smell when it is lit, these prescription drugs do not have any smell. So you see is that your child become catatonic. So these are some of the things that you should look out for. And I believe parents, it's time that we started bonding with our children. But as we end this particular segment, let's say it is good that we have a success story in our addiction story. For unfortunately, as we go on along with this series, you're going to discover that this is really the same. So thank you very much for giving me your time. Please subscribe, and I hope that you'll be keeping in touch along as we go along with this journey. Thank you.